Hey, how's it going? Gareth James here for MTT PokerSchool.com. And I know it's been a long time, but I am back today with part number 6 of my mini Sunday Million chop. This is where we left off last time. We had this spot and I said that I would run it in Pio and we can look at it. So just a quick reminder, we opened up from the cutoff and it folds to the big blind, who decides to make a very, very small 3-bet, and we call. Now, I don't think we should be folding very many hands at all in this situation. Yes, it looks like he has, fairly strong range at this point, but, we're getting almost 3-1 on a call. We're going to be playing in position. We cover him. Lots of good things can happen. So we call, and he bets half pot, and we have a gut shot, a flush draw, and 2 overs, so we definitely don't want to fold. So it'll be interesting to look in Pio to see whether or not this is, can we raise at this point? We obviously block a hand like Ace King of clubs or King Queen of clubs, King 10 of clubs. But he can still have a decent number of flushes. I think a lot of suited aces that we don't block. And when we do raise and then he jams, we're going to be running into the ace of clubs a decent chunk of the time, or a made flush. And we're going to be in pretty bad shape in that spot. So I think it's probably just going to be a call, but it'd be interesting to look at, given that we have 2 overs, a gut shot, and a flush draw. He now checks on the turn. Now there is some argument for betting here. I went and checked, and then on the river, he checks again, and I felt like we had a pretty easy bet now. As a bluff, we block a decent number of his strong hands. I mean, to be honest, a lot of his strong hands are just going to go ahead and bet either the turn or the river. But if we're not going to bluff with this hand, then, I'm not sure what our other bluffs are. So that's another question we can ask Pio. Apart from this hand, like, what other hands are we bluffing with? So we did bluff and he folded. So let's jump into Pio now and see if we can answer some of those questions. Okay, so here's the spot in Pio. We've got the Jack 9-5 board. First thing I want to look at is who has the equity advantage here. And it looks like he does, I guess mainly because we're going to be 4-betting our strongest, like the big pairs. And, he can definitely just have them in his 3-betting range. But I would say that we probably have a decent number of flushes in this spot. And we can have jacks, 9s, 5s, Jack 9 suited. And as I said, the flushes as well. Our equity in position is 46, and here's this 54. Interestingly, let's just have a quick look at the range explorer here. If we look at like 2-pair plus, let's just check, it's out of position player, so the big blind is going to have 17 combos here, 12% of his range, and if we change the player, we have about 12% as well. But you can see that we just have way more combos of flushes, but it's still only around 12% of our range, and that's that's something to be aware of, because we just have a lot of hands that are absolutely nothing on this board. So he goes ahead and bets, and we're going to look at our strategy now. One of the questions I had was, should we be raising this hand given that we have a flush draw, a gut shot, 2 overcards? And you can see that actually from a range perspective, we're not actually raising at all here. There's a tiny little bit of pocket jacks here, maybe a bit of king jack, jack 9, so you can just slightly see the pink here and the pocket 5s as well. But generally, we're just going to be going ahead and calling. So if we just hover over here, the king queen, and you can see that it really favors the gut shot with a club, and we should actually go ahead and quite a lot of the time just fold king queen with no club. So we did call. And the 7 of diamonds came on the turn, and he suddenly now decides to check. And we have a decision whether we should bluff on this turn card or just check. And if we look here, we can see that our actual hand was the king of clubs, queen of hearts. So it's that bottom row of king, queen offs in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see that we want to go ahead and bet half the time and check half the time, roughly. So I chose to check. Doesn't seem like too much of a mistake. Seems fine. Interestingly, if we had the queen of clubs in this spot, it would favor a check, and when we have the king of clubs, it favors taking both lines, I guess. We did choose to check. And it was the 3 of spades on the river. Now, before we do that, I just want to have a look. If we just go back to our move, like, I just want to see if we end up capping ourselves here as to not having a flush. So I just want to hover over here. So you can see that we do have a flush. We have the ace king of clubs, we have ace queen of clubs, we can have ace 10 of clubs, ace 8 clubs. So really interestingly, it looks like it wants to go ahead and check a lot of these top ace x of club hands. So we definitely not capped. We can definitely have a flush going into the river. Interestingly as well, it also wants to go ahead and bet like ace 4 of clubs, ace 3 and ace deuce, same as ace 6 and ace 7. So I guess maybe these, 8 through king interacts with his range too much in some way, and these perhaps don't. We're going to get called more often when we have one of these low cards. Let's have a look at any others. So king queen of clubs tends to be a check, and king 10 of clubs is a mix. King 8 of clubs favors checking, but generally a mix. And then king 7, these lower flushes, again, we want to go ahead and bet. So we do have some strong hands in our range for checking back here. Pocket jacks wants to be a bet, pocket 9s is a mix, and pocket 5s favors a bet, but sometimes wants to check as well. So it's not like we go into the river and we don't have a flush. If the board pairs as well, it's not like we never have a full house, because we will. So yeah, we are making sure that we have plenty of hands to call or to raise on the river. So yeah, we did check back. 3 of spades came, and then he checks again, and you can see that actually he doesn't have that many hands that get to this point, which is interesting. And then we want to ask ourselves the question, should we be betting bluffing with king queen? And you can see there that it does look like it wants to be a bet here. Now I gave it 3 different sizings on the river: half pot, full pot, and to jam, which is like just over 2x pot, 2.5x pot, something like that. And I actually chose like 65% in game. And this was a decent while ago now, so I think my game has changed somewhat. But it's pretty clear that, if we give it a half pot, a full pot, and an overbet jam, we can get an idea of the hands we want to go ahead and bluff here for the different sizings. And looks to me like king queen always wants to go ahead and bet should it get here. Now you can see that it's roughly like just under half of the combos, like, because on the turn we want to be betting half the time with those with king of clubs, queen of hearts, and so that's why it's not completely full in this spot. Okay, so yeah, we definitely want to go ahead and bet there. The other question I had was, what other hands are we bluffing with? So let's use the Range Explorer to do this, and let's just go down here. So click on strategy. So you can see king queen with a club looks to be the one we want to bet with, and the same with king 10 with a club if we get to this point. And then interestingly, king 10 suited as well if we manage to get here. We haven't chosen to bluff it earlier on, like on the turn, for example. Let's have a look at some ace highs. So ace king with the ace of clubs and the king of clubs as well, looks like. Ace queen, a decent chunk of ace queens with the ace of clubs. So it seems to give us an idea that having ace queen or king queen with an ace, or with a club, is a pretty good spot, a pretty good hand to go ahead and bluff with. I wouldn't imagine that any of these pairs are being turned into bluffs. Not even sure if this is a bluff or just a value bet on this river. Choosing to bet with king 9 suited, not entirely sure. And then if we look at nothing, looks like, okay. So it looks like if we do get to the river with any queen 10s, we didn't bet it on the turn, then we definitely want to go ahead and bet it on the river. So it looks to me like it's just the draws and favoring clubs if we get there. But obviously these 2 queen 10s are going to have very, very low equity. You can see here that, they have like 1% equity. So they're not going to win very often if we check. And I think it's kind of what Pio does quite a lot, is taking hands that have very low equity, very low chance of winning, basically the bottom of your range, and turning it into a bluff. Okay, so let's go back to PokerTracker now and continue with the hands. So if you've watched the previous 5 parts, you'll have seen me go through every single hand on the way up to this point. I think from your perspective as a viewer, it's probably going to be better if I just filter for the hands that I think are actually worth seeing. And, you know, there's lots of 7 deuce off folds, and there's lots of very straightforward, you know, we raise and everyone folds, or we raise and then we see bet the flop and everyone folds, or, you know, a lot of those kind of hands that I don't think are actually that useful in learning. So I'm just going to skip through them, and we're now going to look at, I think I've got 52 more hands to look through. And so we're going to look through them and start off right now. Okay, so in this hand, I thought it was interesting. It's actually not a hand that I chose to play, but you can see here that early position opens for 3x. We see a flat from the hijack, and we have king 5 offsuit. Now I see quite a lot of players just flicking it in here because, you know, it costs 2 big blinds, the pot's 8 big blinds, we're getting 4 to 1. It's a great situation, but it's really not, and this should just be a fold, and we're going to be losing a decent chunk of money in this spot. So really important to be sensitive to the raise size. I think if this guy min raises and this guy calls, then it's actually probably still a fold. Now, given that it's a fold for a min raise, then we should probably go ahead and fold it in this instance as well. Let me just check this. So this is if early position raises hijack flats. This is our defending range in the big blind. Now this is for 30 bigs. He has 20 bigs in practice, and I do have a 20 big blind sim, but it doesn't allow flat calls from the hijack. So I thought we'd go 30 bigs and we can talk about it. But you can see that king 5 off is actually losing money. It's losing just a little bit more than folding. When we look at king 6 off, it's making a little bit more money than folding, but not a great deal. But this is versus a min raise, and so our price is going to be much better. Our odds are going to be better, and we are still going to have the same difficulty in realizing equity, but because of our odds are better, we get to defend a bit wider. But you can see, so versus a 2x, we have to fold king 5 off. So versus the 3x, we definitely want to go and fold, which is what I did. Okay, so very similar situation to the last time, just to sort of reiterate the point. Now we've got a min raise and a call, both 20 bigs, so again, we won't be able to run it. But I think, again, this is just a very clear fold, and that's what I did. But yeah, I just see, like, if we just go back, actually, I just see a lot of players just kind of, now we're getting like 6 to 1. So, you know, before versus the 3x open, we were getting like 4.2 or something to 1. Now we're getting 6.4 to 1. So a lot of players will just go, oh, it's only a big blind. Like, you know, we can flop some decent hands. Yeah, you can, but it doesn't happen very often. You're out of position. You're going to find it really tough to realize your equity. So I would just go ahead and find a fold. Okay, this next one, I believe it's in here because I make a mistake and I fold. I think this is a pretty clear open. Yeah. So interestingly, you know, I talked about this in previous parts. This is why it's so important to review hands, and also to review hands, you know, a little while after the fact. So my game has changed since I played this tournament, and, you know, looking back on it now, this is not something I would be doing. I think this is a very clear open. Okay, next spot then we have pocket 8s, and I can't remember what happens. Okay, well, that seems really tight. Maybe this is just in there because it's obviously ridiculous. I don't know why I'm folding here. You know, sometimes it can be maybe, you know, late back from the bathroom, or a misclick, or, you know, lots of things can affect this. Given that we're really deep into this tournament, it could be fatigue, but really I should only have one table. So this is just a huge mistake, and I really don't know why it's happened. So, you know, it's in there for sort of just wanting to be, you know, really open and honest. I really don't know why I chose to fold in that spot, and I think it's a very big mistake. Okay, I've got 6-5 suited here. The low jack opens. Just having a quick look at the stacks behind. I don't know what I chose to do. Okay, I chose to fold here. And the reason why I put this in here is because this probably is good enough to VPip generally. But we've got the button who could shove. We've got the small blind who could shove. And in fact, we've got the big blind who could shove as well. Because we're not going to have too many hands we want to flat here for 60 bigs. That will be able to call a 35 big blind jam. So we got to be a little bit careful with our calling range in this situation, and I think just passing up on these spots is probably okay. But if these two players are very, very tight, then maybe we should be going ahead and playing this hand. Okay, so this next spot then, the button raises and it comes to us with Jack 5 off, and for some reason we choose to fold. Yeah, let's have a look at this in Monka and see, how bad it is. Okay, so if we hover over Jack 5 off, you can see again it's making just a little bit more money than folding is. But this is versus a 2.3x. Now in game it was only a min raise, so I think we should definitely be defending here. And I think it's a pretty clear mistake from my part. Okay, king queen off, we raise and the big blind defends, and he checks, and we go ahead and bet small. I'm not too sure about this sizing. This I think will be a very, very good one to run in Pio to see which sizing it prefers. I mean, we're going to have a decent number of strong but vulnerable hands in this situation. A hand like ace jack is pretty strong at this point, but it's pretty vulnerable as well. So I think this could well be the wrong sizing to choose here, but it'd be interesting to see whether we should go big with the hands, all the hands we want to bet, and then check, or whether we can go, whether we can bet range for a small sizing here. Interesting sizing as well. This looks like, I don't know, 35 to 40% pot. I think now if we're going to bet small, we bet like 30 to 33, something like that would probably be better. Have a queen on the turn. We go ahead and bet again. And we get jammed on, so that's very, very interesting. We obviously block king 10, but we also block, some sort of random gut shot with a flush draw, which would be like king X of hearts. So this is a really, really interesting spot. I can't remember what I did. I'm going to say I probably folded, and I'm not convinced that that's what we should do here. Obviously, we have top pair, we have a gut shot. Okay, so here's the hand loaded into Pio, and as I predicted, it much prefers the bigger sizing on this board. The board is very wet, very dynamic, and we have a lot of strong but vulnerable hands. So I used ace jack off as an example, but a lot of these hands are still going to be pretty strong, but very vulnerable. So we should have gone with the bigger sizing. It looks to me like it very rarely uses the small sizing. We do have some checks, but not that often. So yeah, we bet small in this situation, and he called. Queen of spades came on the turn. He checked, and you can see now that because we chose the wrong sizing, there's very sort of small frequencies of all of these hands. So the mistake came on the flop. But if we let's see if we can do this, make it a bit bigger so you can see. So we had I believe king queen with the king of hearts, and you can see in the bottom right hand corner we can definitely go ahead and bet, or we can check. So we went ahead and bet, and then he jammed, and I predicted that it would be a bad fold. But look in here, I mean, there's a decent number of king queens being folded here. So it looks to me like having the king of hearts in our hand is pretty bad. And that's something that I mentioned a few moments ago as well. We just block him from having king X of hearts, which is a flush draw and a gut shot that he could potentially jam in this spot. So it looks like we would much prefer to have the queen of hearts so that he can have those bluffs in this spot. So in these situations, we never really want to block someone's bluffs, because if we do that, then they're more likely to have value in this situation. So yeah, interestingly, we can fold king queen. We could fold aces if we bet it. We'd have to fold some kings. So again, like having kings with the king of hearts is really, really bad. So we wouldn't want to play and to call with that hand, even though it seems pretty strong. Looks like ace king of hearts, ace king of spades are just a little bit too strong to want to fold in this situation. I mean, they have a gut shot, 2 overs, and a flush draw. Let's look at some other hands. Okay, so this is a really, really big surprise, I think, seeing a hand as strong as queen 10 of hearts going into a folding range. So having, we have top pair, we have a straight draw, we have a flush draw, and we block king 10. Seems mad that we'd want to go ahead and fold queen 10 of hearts, but that's exactly what this program is recommending. Mainly, I would imagine, because, again, we block his bluffs. So if he had a hand like 10-3 of hearts, that might be a hand that really wants to go ahead and check jam in this situation. So we don't want to block that. Let's just have a quick look, actually. So he doesn't have too many jams, but let's just have a look here. Okay, yeah. So you can see like 10-7 of hearts. Just a jam here. 10-5 of hearts, 10-4, 10-3, 10-2. So that is really, really key. So having a 10 of hearts here is really, really bad from our point of view, because we block him from having his most obvious jams on this turn. So the key thing here is not having the 10 of hearts in your hand and not having the king of hearts in your hand when he does go ahead and jam. Obviously, we're going to call off with sets. We're going to call off with straights. And just going to see if there's any others. Okay, we have a straight here as well. Interestingly, we actually can fold here sometimes with queen jack, which is top 2 pair. If we have the queen of hearts in our hand, you can see if we have queen of hearts, jack of spades, it's going to be a call. But if you have queen of hearts, jack of diamonds, it's favoring more of a fold. Anytime where it's a mix, generally calling and folding are going to be very, very similar EVs. And given that the EV of folding is 0, generally going to mean that the EV of calling is going to be 0 as well. So let's just have a look at that. And you can see queen of hearts, jack of diamonds, EV of is 0.4. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, okay, so calling is 1.2 and folding is 0. So it's really, really like very, very marginal to want to call here. I'd be really interested to know if any of you watching this video would fold queen jack in this spot. If you would, comment down below and let me know. I think it's quite a surprise to see that, but yeah, surprised but very, very interesting. And I don't think there's anything else we can see here. Yeah, everything else looks pretty straightforward. Ace 8 has a gut shot and a flush draw. It's a little bit too good to fold. King 6 has a pair, a gut shot, and a flush draw. So just too many outs basically to want to go ahead and fold. But yeah, pretty interesting hand. So it looks to me like my fold actually wasn't that bad. Let's go back to PokerTracker. So the big mistake came on the flop. We should have bet way bigger. We should be betting like 4 bigs, if not more, in this spot. So this is just not good. And then on the turn, we go for this bigger sizing, and then he jams. Having the king of hearts in our hand is really, really bad. So we actually can fold, and it's not as bad as it first looks. Okay, that's going to wrap things up for this part. I'm going to be back with more parts very, very soon. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you aren't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I will see you soon. This has been Gareth James for MTT PokerSchool.com. Signing off. Take care, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.